John 5:39, everybody, we give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahuah HaMashiach this day. All right. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you would not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. Another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you. To Abba there is one that accuse you, even Moses, in whom you trust. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? Exodus chapter 33 and 17. 33 and 17. We'll be through it, Exodus chapter 33 at this point. And Yahuah said unto Moses, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken, for thou hast found con in my sight, and I know thee by name. He said, I beseech thee, show me thy esteem. He said, I will make all my goodness pass before thee, and I will proclaim the name of Yahuah before thee, and will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. And he said, thou cannot see my face, for there shall no man see me and live. And Yahuah said, behold, there is a place by me, thou shalt stand upon a rock. And it shall come to pass while my esteem pass by, that I will put thee in the cleft of the rock, and I will cover thee with my hand while I pass by. And I will take away my hand, and thou shalt see my back parts, but my face shall not be seen. Let me check something real fast, make sure that's the same word for hand that we got in the other previous verse. Because we didn't read that verse, that last verse. And it's the same word. It's the same character. That's the same copy. Let's go to John chapter 1, verse 14. We got a tie-in tonight. We're going to double dip a little bit. Just to double dip a little bit to a previous verse. That's why we started at 17. John 1 and 14. But we'll go ahead and give it verse 12. So remember, hiding you in the cleft in the rock is hiding you in the hole of the rock in the palm of the hand. I'm going to hide you and cover you in a hole by the palm of my hand in the wound of Mashiach. And we know the wounds is what we were healed by, and that is what allowed our sins to be covered. That's what we talked about a little bit on Wednesday. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of Elohim, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor the will of flesh, nor the will of man, but of Elohim. And the word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his esteem. The esteem is of the only begotten of Abba, full of favor and truth. John bare witness of him and cried, saying, this is he of whom I spake. He that came after me is preferred before me, for he was before me. And of his fullness have we all received great and grace for grace. For law, for the Torah was given by Moses, but Khan and Amunah came by Yahuah HaMashiach. No man have seen Elohim at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of Abba, he have declared him. Say, ain't no man seen him at any time. And see, let me sit there and look at it in Greek. I wish I had one of them things that we could swap that out for the Hebrew equivalent to be used in that particular verse. But let's go ahead and look at it, because we could do it and we could be wrong if we try to do a little substitution ourselves. So that Greek word for seeing is to see with the eyes, or to see with the mind, or to perceive, or to know, or to become acquainted with by experience, or to experience. And so we have to keep that in mind. And when he say that, but he said, him that was in the bosom of the Father have declared him. And that word for in Greek is to lead out, or to be a leader, or to go before, or to unfold a teaching, an interpretation of an oracle, which would make sense when we also see that what is stated that he told Moses that he would do for him. How he would proclaim the name of Yahuah. So when we drop down and pull that word out in verse 19 for proclaim, and that's the kara, and that is to call out or to recite or to utter with a loud sound or to read aloud or to call for or to be proclaimed or to read aloud. And remember, he said that in John 5 he came in his Abba's name, and you received me not, because he came to proclaim that. So you hold this John chapter 1, because I'm going to come right back to it. But go to Exodus 34 just a tad bit early. Exodus 34 and verse. Well, screw it. Verse 1. We gonna work into it because we're gonna have to go ahead and do it now. You know, we were the whole thing that we were going through Exodus 33 and setting the stage for was the renewal of the covenant. Everything that we looked at from Exodus 33, from verse 1 all the way to verse 23, that we done spent about 3-4 weeks on it, I want to say, maybe longer than that, was because they had already broken that covenant. They had broken that covenant by their worship of the golden calf. Therefore, it necessitated a need for this covenant to be renewed because they had broken it. Which takes us back to what we know, that if the first covenant would have been faultless, there would have been no need for the second. The very message that is encapsulated in the epistle to the Hebrews in the 8th chapter, picking it up and starting up at probably about the 6th verse, is saying that. Because if there was a need for Moses to make another covenant, then he wouldn't have had to made it, because there would have been no fault found in the first one, because the people would have kept it. Again, our whole purpose of doing through this law like this here is that when you slide in them epistle letters, when you slide in them gospels, that you know exactly where all this stuff is coming from, and that its basis and in its root is in the law itself. As we already know, Torah. To see him who has been sacrificed or impaled. To see the man who's been sacrificed. That's why he said, if you would have believed Moses, you would have believed me, because he wrote of me. So you would have been able to see Yahushua in the law, because you would have seen the man who was sacrificed. But before we continue to read Exodus 34 and 1, I think that we definitely do need to revisit Exodus 32 for memory's sake, and the 15th verse of Exodus 32. Excuse me. Moses turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both of their sides, and on the one side and on the other were they written. And the tables were the work of Elohim, and the writing was the writing of Elohim graven upon the tables. And when Yahushua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said unto Moses, there is a noise of war in the camp. And he said, it is not the noise of them that shout for mastery, neither is the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing do I hear. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh to the camp, that he saw the calf and dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hand and brake them beneath the mount. So keep holding John chapter 1, but let's go look at Hebrews 8, what I referenced, and let's just look at it. The covenant has been broken, and it was broken because the people served an idol. Bottom line. So the basis of a renewal or a new covenant is not a prophet notion. It's not a gospels notion. It's not an epistle letter notion. It's a notion that is encapsulated right there in the law. It's right there in the law. It's right there in your face. Old covenant, new covenant, no life, eternal life. That whole stage was set, written, prophesied, and stated, and Yahushua came and brought it to pass. As simple as that. It's not a difficult task to ascertain. It's not a difficult task to see. You know what I'm saying? Some people will dispute. Some people will not. Who cares? Let Yah be true and every man be a liar. Hebrews 8 and 6. But now he have obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For that if the first covenant had been faultless, there should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, saith Yahuah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Yasharal and with the house of Yehudah. We can swing right on back over here to Exodus 34:1 now. Still hold you John chapter 1. See, we could see that there because we could see that he found fault with the people in the Exodus 32, which calls for the breaking. Because they broke the covenant. Elohim didn't break the covenant. That's what you always got to remember. And when people always coming with, nobody can keep that law, we in a new, the problem wasn't never, he didn't make a new covenant because there was something wrong with the laws. You were breaking them, i.e. Yasharal was breaking them. See, people always talk about them laws, but again, if we're going to use scriptural reference, the laws are done away with, who were they given to? They were given to a set group of people. That covenant was made, and there's no way around that, because in the epistle letters that they hold dear, those epistle letters says clearly, we just read it, who that covenant was made to. It was made to Yehudah and Yasharal. So that covenant is in effect to those people, and then that covenant also allowed for other people to be joined unto it. And our laws say, as ye are, so shall the stranger shall be. There's no difference. Some people disputed and contend, we under the law of Christ. If that's what you want to take for being unkadesh and unclean, by all means continue to do so. But the reason why a lot of Christians, especially those who deal with brews, feel this way is because most brews tend to focus more so on not eating pork in the Sabbath. That's really where their contention be at. Because none of them are contending that you shouldn't commit adultery, or you shouldn't lie, or you shouldn't steal, or that you shouldn't murder, or that you shouldn't fornicate. Nobody has any contention with any of that you shouldn't be a homosexual, that you shouldn't be a whoremonger, that you shouldn't be an extortioner or a drunkard, that you shouldn't have malice or be spiteful. Nobody has a problem with any of these being set apart from any of those behaviors. When you really zero in and focus on it, it seems like they only have a problem with people saying that they don't eat pork and they keep the Shabbat in the feast days. That's what they seem to have a problem with, which is like, it doesn't really make sense to me. Like, why are you zoning? Why is that your only point of contention? This is the only thing you're contending about that you have a problem with? Like, come on, let's be serious. Let's be serious for a moment. Exodus 34:1. Yahuah said unto Moses, hew thee 2 tables of stones like unto the first, and I will write upon these tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou break. And be ready in the morning, and come up in the morning unto Mount Sinai, present thyself there to me in the top of the mount. No man shall come up with thee, neither let any man be seen throughout all the mountain, neither let the flocks nor the herds feed before that mount. And he hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first. And Moses rose up early in the morning, and went up unto Mount Sinai as Yahuah had commanded him, and he took in his hand the 2 tables of stones. And Yahuah descended in the cloud and stood with him there, and proclaimed the name of Yahuah. Yahuah passed by before him. Remember, that's going back to what we were reading in Exodus 33. And proclaimed Yahuah Elohim, merciful, gracious. So again, let's pull those words out and see if it's the same words that we've been dealing with. So he proclaimed the name of Yahuah Elohim, and we see, what do we see? We see that merciful, we see that rakam, we see that compassion. We see the Canaan again for gracious. So again, what do we see? We see that separated seed. Oh, I don't have that anymore. I forgot I don't have that anymore. So you know, with that rakam, we got the Rosh and the Aleph and the Meme, and that's the head, showing you water, or showing you Ruach, or giving you life. He's giving you life from his mercies. See, pause for a moment from this Exodus 33, 34. Come over here to Lamentation chapter 3. And again, you know it's Kanun or Kanan, so you know what you're coming with. He's a separated seed. So again, when he shows that graciousness, He's showing you how he's going to separate you. That's why he said, come out from among them and be ye separate. But see, that's what don't nobody want to do. Nobody wants to be that separated seed, or the seed that's been separated by the head. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to be right there. That man said, we're going to read it. It ain't made no difference. It ain't going to hurt nothing if we dealing with the graciousness. We got to deal with what it is. And one of them epistle letters with a commonly referenced and used passage that everyone in this sitting here who can hear the sound of my voice should be utterly familiar with. And when we get the if I can get the Lamentations, maybe we can read chapter 3 and verse 30. It's like, if we so want to get the page right there, but we're there now though. No, up to verse 30 wasn't what I wanted. Got back. Oh, there we go. Back it up a little bit. Back it up a little bit. We will pick that up. At about verse 18. And I said, my strength and my hope is perished from Yahuah, remembering the mine affliction and my misery, the wormwood and gall. My soul hath them still in remembrance and is humbled in me. This I recall to mind, therefore have I hope. It is of Yahuwah's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Yahuwah is my portion, saith my soul. Therefore will I hope in him. Yahuwah is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seek him. It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of Yahuwah. Now, he said his compassions do not fail. Those mercies don't fail. And that should take you to reference in Psalms 30. You know, pain endure for a night, but joy come in the morning. Because he say his faithfulness is new every morning. The reason why we could reference that is because you clearly seen how I wanted to focus in on, what's that verse? That he told Moses to go up there with the new covenant early in the morning. So then that should take us back to when they came to the grave of Hamashiach, and it was early in the morning, and he was gone. He was gone because he had to go do the same thing Moses did. Let me go ahead and renew this covenant and make it new with you, so these mercies could be extended unto you, so you could fear me. This was the point. See, pause. Let's go to Titus. Let's just go to Titus. It's just one part of Titus that I want. I don't really want the back part of the verse just popped into my brain. But we're going to jam it. And after Titus, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. And this also takes us back to what we were talking about putting the blood on the doorpost of your soul. When we talk about the dom, or the doorway to life, or the doorway to water. And that is Titus 2 and screw it, we'll pick 2 and I get the whole thing, 2 and 1. Because it's going to lead to what this mercy and what this grace is supposed to be producing, to go along with what we're talking about. Now I can say for the women, the only negative for us as a collective is there are no older women for y'all to be able to execute what we about to read. Because I know that y'all do need that. That's undeniable. And not because that's anything against the young women, but of course it's always good to have a woman who may have been married 10, 15, 20 years to give you gleams of wisdom and understanding in a process that you're working towards yourself. That you would, you know what I'm saying, it'll cut the learning curve out on certain things and assist you and make you better in your endeavor. Ain't no different for the men too. It'd definitely be better if there were people around that had been older, that have been married 10, 15, 20, 25 years. They could give you the insight on you to be a better husband and a servant to your wife. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, let's start here. Titus 2 and 1. But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine, that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, and charity, and patience. The aged women likewise, that they may be in behavior as becoming Kadesh. So if you in a woman who is Kadesh, you cannot be a false accuser. You can't be given too much wine. And you would need to be a teacher of good things. See, people read this and they think this means that a woman's supposed to teach the word. It tells you in here the good things that they're supposed to teach. That they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, and to love their children. Now, I just had a conversation with a dude about it earlier. The biggest misnomer that people in this world got is that you're supposed to put your children before your spouse. But clearly right here, you see how he says that you need to teach them to love their husbands and then love their children. Because you know where that comes from? It comes from our law. All you got to do is go back to Genesis when he said a man leaves his father and his mother and he cleaves to his wife. Your spouse come before your children. People see in this days and time, people think that's crazy. How could you say that? What do you mean, nigga? The respect for the authority of the parents in the house has to be firmly rooted. If the children are placed ahead of the spouse, the children know that it is cool for them to buck and disrespect authority. Duh. Y'all don't operate like that. Y'all don't put you before. Y'all didn't. Let's put it right here. Not to say that Jerusalem is his wife. He said Jerusalem is the mother of us all. So in the concept of what the text says when it comes to that, he said, if you defile Jerusalem, I will put you out. He didn't put the children before the land. He put the children out of the land for disrespecting it because you did not obey your mother. I will put you out of here. You never put your children before your spouse. That is teaching them a bad lesson. That is not, no, absolutely not. You don't do that. You don't do that. That's not wisdom. Absolutely, you're one with your spouse, not your children. You're definitely not one with your children. You're one with your spouse. And that's our law. Nigga, let's go on and look at it then. Genesis chapter 2. That's our law. That's I don't care if niggas don't like it. I don't care if people get offended with it. Take it up with Yahuah. That's what our law say. I ain't got nothing to do with that. 2:21. And Yahuah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept and took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahuah Elohim had taken from man made he a woman and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Because guess what? One day your children are going to do the same thing. They're going to leave you, and they're going to cleave to their husband. They're going to cleave to their wife, and they're going to be one flesh. That's common sense is tell you don't put them in front of your spouse because they going to leave one day because they supposed to. So again, back to Titus chapter 2. We in verse 4. That they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children. Look at the next thing it said that they should be. They should be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of Elohim be blasphemed, not blasphemed. Notice that it said obedient to their own husbands, not obedient to your boyfriend, to your husband. You are not required to be obedient to a man who is not your husband. It's according to our law, a woman was only required to be obedient to two men, either her father or her husband. If she didn't have a father and she dwelt in her father's house, and we know this from Numbers chapter 30, the father had the ability to disannul a vow that his daughter made in his home. Since I mentioned it and we talked about it before, and I'm talking about it now, Numbers chapter 30, which is reading out the law. Let's just sit back and let's just look at what our law says. It's just that simple. 30:1. That's the only two men that a woman is bound to obey. And if a woman is married, then she's bound to obey her husband and no longer bound to obey her father. And if she does not live in her father's house, then she is not bound. He cannot disannul her vow. She must be living in her father's house. And Moses spake unto the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Yasharal, saying, this is the thing which Yahuah hath commanded. If a man vow a vow unto Yahuah, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceed out of his mouth. If a woman also vow a vow unto Yahuah, and bind herself by a bond, being in her father's house in her youth, and her father hear her vow, and her bond where she hath bond her soul, and her father shall hold his shalom at her, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond where she hath bond her soul shall stand. But if her father disallow her in the day that he hear, not any of her vows or of her bonds where she hath bound her soul shall stand, and Yahuah shall forgive her, because her father disallowed her. And if she had at all a husband when she vowed, or uttered aught out of her lips where she bound her soul, and her husband heard it, and held his shalom at her, in the day that he heard it, then her vow shall stand, and her bonds where she bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband disallowed her on the day that he heard it, then he shall make her vow which she vowed, and that which she uttered with her lips where she bound her soul, of none effect. And Yahuah shall forgive her. Listen to the next thing he say. Every vow of a widow and of her that is divorced, where if they have bound their souls, shall stand against her. And if she vowed in her husband's house, or bound her soul by a bond with an oath, and her husband heard it, and held his peace at her, and disallowed her not, then all the vows shall stand. And every bond where she bond, her soul shall stand. But if her husband have utterly made them void on the day he heard them, then whatsoever proceed out of her lips concerning her vows or concerning the bond of her soul shall not stand. Her husband have made them void, and Yahuah shall forgive her. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict the soul. Now this is talking about fasting. Her husband may establish it, or her husband may make it void. But if her husband altogether holdeth shalom at her from day to day, then he established all her vows or her bonds which are upon her, and he confirmed them, because he held his shalom at her in the day that he heard them. But if he shall any ways make them void after he heard them, then he shall bear her iniquity. So you know what this is telling you? You can't come back 2-3 days later and then tell her, oh, you can't do that. Because now you're going to have to wear what she didn't do. What she swore to do, you're going to have to carry that. You're going to have to disannul that vow the day you heard it. You can't come back 3-4 days later, or you're going to carry that sin. You're going to bear it. But yeah, notice. But notice when it said it's a widow or a divorced woman, or clearly a single woman who is not in her youth living in her father's house, no man can disannul that vow. You can't be with a woman and tell her she can't fast and that's not your wife. If that woman make a vow, you can't disannul her vow. You don't have that authority. See, this is the difference of where you understand above. You do not have that obligation to do that to a boyfriend, because he does not have that legally imparted and abdicated authority from Elohim to rule over a woman in this fashion. He doesn't have it. He does not have it. It's only 2 men that a woman has to submit to in her lifetime. That's her father and her husband. If you are not her father nor her husband, that woman is not obligated to submit unto you in any shape, form, or fashion. At the same token, as a man, just because this person is able to, you have the authority of Elohim to have authority and rule over this woman, does not mean that you rule over that woman with vigor, because that is not our law either. Pause since I said that. Leviticus chapter 25, so you can see that, because that's not our law either. Let's just let that be known. Not only does for the aspect of he told you you're supposed to love your wives like Mashiach loved his, but let's just look at the law, and let's just look at that. But that's not our law either. We don't rock nor roll nor move in any shape, form, or fashion. Leviticus chapter that is not 25. That ain't it. That's not it. That's not it. That is not it. Just hold that Titus 2 and John 1. Eventually, we'll get back to John chapter 1. Eventually, y'all will. Then we gotta find that in Leviticus, man. Yeah, you know, a lot of people take that a little too far. I was correct the first time. I'm sorry. Leviticus 25 and 46. I apologize for that. Leviticus 25 and 46. It said, you shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Yasharal, you shall not rule over one another with rigor. Because also, and look at verse 55, because that's what I was thinking of specifically in the same chapter. He say, for unto me the children of Yasharal are servants. They are my servants, unto whom I brought forth out of the land of Mizraim. I am Yahuah your Elohim. Now, in Leviticus 25 and 46, he told you that you would not rule over them with rigor. That also takes you back to what Peter was talking about about not ruling as a master or a lord over Yahuwah's inheritance. I just want to look at the word rigor. So we're going to look at not ruling over one another with rigor. That word is parak. And that is harshness, severity, or cruelty. You ain't got no business, no shape, form, or fashion, ruling over your wife with cruelty, with harshness or severity. You ain't got no business doing that. If a man does that, he is in violation of the law, because you're not supposed to do that. Yes, the law says that the man will rule over the woman and her desire will be to her husband. And, well, that's a conversation that I will have, y'all willing, on tomorrow when everybody present. But, yeah, you're not supposed to do that. Don't take your authority and abuse your authority, and then because that can cause your prayers to be hindered, as Peter has so eloquently stated in the first Peter 3. Well, let's look at that since we're talking about it. We work it all in. It's all going to get it to the same token. Sometimes you got to intertwine. Praise y'all regardless. Now, you know, his doctrine got to be manifested in whatever manner he sees fit for it to be manifested. 1 Peter chapter 3. We just pick it right at verse 7. We don't want nothing but verse 7. He say, likewise, and you know, we talked about this here, but that video was tripping, so it didn't get recorded in its entirety. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge. You supposed to dwell with your wife according to the knowledge of Elohim. That's the first thing you supposed to understand. So if you understand that he is abundant in grace and mercy, you supposed to have compassion on your wife at all times. That would be dwelling with her with knowledge. You're supposed to be able to make sure that she remains a separated seed, because that would be dwelling with her in knowledge. You would be directing the house in the beauty of Kadesh in everything that you do. If you were directed to dwelling with your wife according to knowledge, the same way that Elohim made all things known unto his wife, you would make all things known unto yours. Not because you have to, but because you would do it out of respect. You know what I'm saying? What's the other things we would sit back and look at? Dwelling with her according to knowledge. You would dwell with her according to knowledge according to faith. You would dwell with her according to knowledge according to long suffering. You would dwell with her according to knowledge when it comes to patience. You would dwell with her according to knowledge, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth on tomorrow, is that Yahuah invested in his wife, and he set his wife up and built her first before he even was concerned with himself. If you dwell with her according to knowledge, that you would know that you would be a king, which means you would be a malik, which means you would be a servant, and you would serve your wife as she serves you, if you were going to dwell with her according to knowledge. The reason being because he's about to tell you that she's the weaker vessel. The text tells us ourselves that Yahuah knows our frame, that we are but dust and ashes. So he knew that we were a weaker vessel, so he dwelt with us according to the knowledge that he had to have that long suffering, patience, mercy, compassion, and grace to be able to deal with that, knowing that we were the weaker of the two in that marital arrangement. So if we're going to dwell with our wives according to knowledge, then we would take that into account and move accordingly. This is when we're talking about taking your mind and transforming it from a carnal man to the mind of Yahushua HaMashiach, the mind of Elohim, and operating in that fashion. Because every single solitary household, doesn't matter, no man has to teach the word. You don't have to be a preacher of the word. Every single solitary household where a man is married unto a woman and they profess the name of Mashiach, they profess the name of Yasharal, they profess to be the sons and daughters of Yahuwah Elohim, creator of Shamahim and the rats, that household is supposed to be a snapshot, a framework, a look into the workings in Shamahim. That's what the people are supposed to see. So that when they see you, that your Father in heaven would be esteemed, and that much honor would be redounded unto his name by thanks and praise, and that they could confess as a truth. Surely the living Elohim is in them. Nevertheless, 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 7 yet again. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge. Hello? Hello?
Shalom.
Shalom. So, we look at verse 7, right? Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, as being heirs together of the con of life, that your prayers not be hindered. Notice that he said to give honor or respect unto the wife as the weaker vessel, because you know that you are an inheritor, that separated seed of Mashiach of life. Because he said if you don't do that, this will stop your prayers from being heard. See, niggas don't even consider that part of it. I said this before, I say it again. When it comes time to talk about what a woman supposed to do, niggas' ears be up like a dog. Niggas listen hard, with intent, got commentary, looking at their wives, talking about, do you hear that? When it comes time to talk about what a man need to be held accountable, what he supposed to do, nigga head down, niggas ain't listening. And you don't realize that can stop your prayer from being heard because you're not dwelling with this woman according to knowledge. You're not giving honor unto the weaker vessel. You're not considering that you and her are inheritors of the separated seed of life. And this will stop your prayers from being heard. Because let's look at Proverbs 18 before I swing back to this title. Let's look at something in Proverbs 18 real fast. Just real quick. I was going to mention this tomorrow, but I'll probably do it again if Yahuah see fit. Yahuah willing that I'm alive. Just Proverbs 18 real quick. Verse 22. You should already know what it is. It's just real quick. It says, whoso find a wife find a good thing and obtain the favor of Yahuah. Now let's look at what the word favor. So if you find that, you done found a good thing. So if you done found a good thing, you supposed to honor her as the weaker vessel and dwell with her according to knowledge. If we want to say that we men are Elohim, then we have to take on the attributes of Elohim and dwell with her accordingly. All that stuff plays a role in the receiving of the Ruach HaKodesh. It all plays a role. That's if you want to get it. Now, if you don't want to get it, it don't make no difference. When we look at the word favor, it's ratzon, and that's to get his delight or goodwill or acceptance. So if you find you a wife, Yahuah will accept you. You will attain his acceptance. So that takes you back to why you can see what Peter is making this statement of. You dwell with her according to knowledge. You show honor unto her as unto the weaker vessel, understanding that you are heirs of the separated seed or the con or the grace of life, so your prayers are not blocked. Because it will cause your prayers to be blocked if you moving like an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Don't let people just tell you, oh, you got married, you done got a good thing, you got the favor of Yah. No. If you ain't dwelling with her according to knowledge and you're not showing honor her or the respect that she's due as the weaker vessel, as Yahuah has showed us, because he said, I know man frame is but dust and ashes. This is going back to what he proclaimed, what we're looking at in Exodus 34. Like, whether you know it or not, it's still tying into what we talking about with Mashiach, because he definitely dwelled with us according to knowledge. He definitely showed honor unto us as the weaker vessel. And his prayers were not blocked. So you got to consider that. If you don't do right by your wife, Yah will not hear you. And you can take it for a joke if you want to. You know what I'm saying? And he will bust you up. And that woman ain't got to say nothing. She ain't got to say nothing to you if she don't know I'm talking about or nothing. Because y'all watching it, she can take it to him in prayer. He's seeing it. He going to crack you upside your head. And every time you ask that man for something, he's not going to do it. Because he's not going to go against his own word. You know what I'm saying? So we have to learn to start shifting our mind to, you got to serve your wife. She's not your mother. She's not your in-house maid. The book said, I will give him a helpmeet. He said, it's not good for man to be alone. I will give him a helpmeet. That's what she is. She's there to assist you. She's not there to be your personal slave. And she's definitely not there to be your mother. You know what I'm saying? Because if you wanted a mother, then you got a sick brain. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't need to be moving like how most Hebrews be moving, man, and think your wife just there to just wait on you hand and foot. And then we moving selfishly, thinking that all she's supposed to do is do whatever we tell her to do, as if she's a slave. She's not your slave. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it going in, because we don't need nobody to be blaspheming our Elohim, because we not moving with mercy, compassion, and wisdom and dealing with our wives. The same way we don't need nobody blaspheming our Elohim if our wife is not keeping the home, if she's not loving her husband, if she's not discreet, if she's not chaste, if she's not loving her children. We don't need to be giving these people no room to talk about our God because we being selfish. No, we don't need that needs to stop. That has to stop. That has to cease and desist. Come back to Titus chapter 2, because we finished with it. With 1 Peter 3 anyway. I finished the verse. Praise y'all for the word. We got to sit back and look at that. Every single solitary thing that we do is representative of our Elohim. And you can't be giving people room to run their mouths. How you going to be able to get people room to run? Them niggas don't even treat their wives well. You know what I just said? They said that amongst Peter. They were running their mouth against, in the book of Acts. They say they neglect the widows in the daily ministration. You can't give people no room for do that because you think about yourself. Ain't no way in the world you gonna ever receive the Ruach HaKodesh if you thinking about yourself first. The husband should be thinking about his wife and his kids before he think about himself, and the wife should be thinking about her husband and the kids before she think about herself. That's how it works. And then you know what ends up happening? Everybody's thinking about each other. So therefore everyone's serving each other, and it's going just like how Yahuah wanted it, because that's how he worked. He thinking about y'all before he think about himself. You thinking about him before you think about yourself. And it's the beauty of Kadesh and the mystery of faith manifest before the eyes of men, and they will have no choice but to submit unto the power of Elohim or perish. Nevertheless, Titus chapter 2. We in verse 5. To be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husband, that the word of Elohim be not blasphemed. Young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded, and all things showing thyself a pattern of good works, and doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity and sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you. Exhort servants to be obedient unto their own masters, and to please them well in all things, not answering again, not purloining, but showing good fidelity, that they may adorn the doctrine of Elohim our Savior in all things. For the favor of Elohim that brings salvation have appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. This is what the compassion of Elohim came through to do. Because while you were yet sinners, Mashiach died for you. To teach you to deny this, because he proclaimed the name of Elohim. He is compassionate. The head is going to show you life, and that life is shown in the mercy that he showed unto us from the sacrifice of his son. He gonna show you grace by making you a separated seed through the sacrifice of his son. This is why he's proclaiming his name when he made this new covenant. He's told this man to come make a new covenant, and now he's proclaiming his name. And I've taken us back to John, that the law came by Moses, but that separated seed in faith, that came by Yahushua HaMashiach. Come on back to Exodus 34 though. I'm just trying to get you to follow me before we even get to the key point of what we even finna look at tonight. So when we get to that key point, Yahuwah willing, you'll see that clear as day. What has to be done. And why it has to be done. And why it must be accomplished. We're in verse 6. Yahuwah passed by before him and proclaimed, Yahuwah Elohim, merciful and gracious, long-suffering, and abundant in goodness and truth. Now the word for long suffering, and we done looked at it before, but it's a rock. And what is that is? Slow to anger. So again, patient, slow to anger. That's a part of dwelling with your wife according to knowledge, because that's what Yahuwah did. He is long suffering. He say he that slow to wrath is wise. So let me look at something. He say he say anger rests in the bosom of fools. That's what the text say. But come over here to James though. The epistle of James though. This is right here. James. Gotta find where it's at that I won't. Something brain, but oh yeah. That's James chapter 1, I believe. Is that James chapter 1, I believe? Oh, yep, there it is. James 1:19. Absolutely. He said, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man work not the righteousness of Elohim. So, come back to Exodus 34. That's not the righteousness of Elohim, because he's long-suffering. He's slow to anger. And you should know that from the law. He wanted to kill all the people when they worshiped that golden calf. But what did he do? He showed long suffering and he was slow in his anger. How long did it take him to send us out of the land? Slow to anger, long suffering, patience. Since I said that, Matthew chapter 5. And we good in Titus. We still got to get this 2 Corinthians chapter 6 though. I got to work my way back to that. Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. You've heard that it has been said that thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thy enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies and bless them that curse you, and do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the children of your Abba which is in Shamahim. For he maketh sun to rise on the evil and on the good. He send rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others do? Not even the publicans so? Be ye therefore perfect, as even as your Father which is in Shamahim is perfect. And you know what he talking about? He talking about mercy, but that's also long suffering and patience. That's because at the end of the day, nigga, like, where's that in the law to turn the other cheek? It's the exhibiting of the attribute of the name of Yahuah, which is long suffering. That's what it's about. Becoming like Elohim. And that comes down to faith and desire. The desire to be godly and the desire to please Elohim. Back to Exodus 34. And notice again, we looking at all of these things are coming from the bringing in of the new covenant. Notice he didn't proclaim the name of Yahuah when he gave him the first 2 tables of stone. But when they broke it, when Moses broke them and he had to come renew them, now we see him proclaiming these things. Now also he said he was abundant in goodness and in truth. You know what that truth, that's that good old Amath, and that's reliability, faithfulness, true doctrine, truth, truly. This man say he is abundant in faithfulness. We know the law tells us that it is impossible for Elohim to lie. He is the faithful Elohim. He is faithful. So let's look at something again. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And of course the word for goodness is chesed, and that's kind or faithfulness, loving kindness, pity, mercy. Which goes back to what we read in Matthew chapter 5. Which goes back to what every man should be on. This is still going back to what we talking about with dwelling with your wife according to knowledge. Where is the mercy towards your wife? Why do we not dwell with our women according to knowledge? According to what this book say. It's not hard. It just has to be a want to it. You have to want to do it. And that want come down from putting yourself to the side. My apologies. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and 1 that we desire, and not chapter 3. Let a man so account of us as of the ministers of Mashiach and the stewards of the mysteries of Elohim. Moreover, it is required in a steward that a man should be found faithful. Yahushua was the steward of the mysteries of Elohim, and we know he was faithful. How do we know it? Let's look at Revelation chapter 3. And if you sit back and you look at it, if you are a husband, let me make sure we got what I want in Revelation 3. Let me find the verse. Was it 3 and 9? It might be 3 and 2. If you're a husband and a father, then you know you're a steward of that household, and you have to be found faithful. So you have to turn around and execute and be just like your God. We pick it up at verse 7. Well, actually, verse 14. If you're going to be a steward of a household, and what? He said, to whom much is given, much is required. And if that's been given unto you, then it's required for you to be faithful. You have to be reliable. You have to be sure, which means they always got to come first. And every decision that you make, and that comes back to the long suffering, comes back to the mercy and compassion, comes back to dwelling with him according to knowledge. 3 and 14. And unto the Malachim of the synagogue of the Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of Elohim. So again, Yahushua said he the faithful witness. Because he got to be just like his father, and he has to be faithful too. He has to be reliable. He has to be solid. This is why he say he's the rock, which takes us back to when he told Moses, I'm going to put you on this rock which is next to me. And I'm going to hide you in the hole of that rock and cover you with the palm of my hand. I'm going to hide you in that wound, because he took those wounds faithfully. Don't y'all realize? Let me show you something right. Proverbs 27. We looked at this long time ago. But we'll revisit the statement right now and then swing to 1 Peter chapter 2 real quick like. Y'all willing, I promise it's going to tie into what we came to Exodus 33 for. 27 and 5. Open rebuke is better than secret love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. He said faithful are the wounds of a friend. Now you notice that he hid Moses in the hole in the rock, covering him with the palm of the hand. We looked at that Wednesday how he showed his apostles the palm of his hand. He showed them the wound, because it said faithful are the wounds of a friend. Let's see what the Hebrew word for faithful is in that particular verse. And in that particular verse, it is aman, to support, to confirm, to be faithful, to nourish. Pillar of support. A supporter of the door, to be established, to be faithful, lasting, verified, and confirmed, and trusty. And then since he mentioned being nourished, we'll look at that too. But notice that all of these things, they say it was to confirm. So when he hid Moses in that hand, and notice that when he said he passed by, when he proclaimed the name of Yahuah, he had already passed by Moses, and he had told him in Exodus 33. So when he's hiding him in that hole and covering him with the palm of his hand or the wound in his hand, he is confirmed. You realize that's the confirming and the establishing of the covenant right then, which is pointing us to later when he turned around and he told his apostles, stick your hand into the wound, stick it in there. You can hide right in here. It's the confirmation. This covenant has been confirmed. It's been confirmed in my body. 1 Peter chapter 2. Two and 24. Whose own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we being dead to sins should live unto unrighteousness, by whose stripes ye were healed. Because you know he said, I call you friends. Well, let's look at that, because he said, faithful are the wounds of a friend. John 15. And after John 15, James chapter 2. And then we're going to get that 2 Corinthians chapter 6 out the way. You just keep your finger on John 1 though. Hallelujah for Yahushua in the word. And we want John chapter 15 verse 13. But I'll make it 12. Oh, it ain't but 9:50. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay his life down for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for a servant know not what his master do. For I called you friends, for all things that I've heard of my Abba I have made known unto you. Come on over here to James chapter 2. Those wounds are faithful and confirmation and trustworthy for his friends are those who are obedient to the covenant, the righteous obedience of faith. Those wounds are faithful. So that also takes us to the point that if a husband's dwelling with his wife according to knowledge, he's got to be firm. He's got to be reliable. He's got to be trustworthy. You have to confirm the covenant that you entered into with your wife to keep the word that you said that you would do. As Yahushua did with his wife, to confirm to say to do what he said that he would do. What is that? Oh yeah, James 2. James 2 and 20. But without know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead. Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered Isaac his son upon the altar? See thou how faith wrought with his works, and by works was faith made perfect. And the scripture was fulfilled, which saith, Abraham believed Elohim, and what is imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of Elohim. So you see then how that by works a man is justified, and not by faith only. Likewise also was not Rahab the harlot justified by works, when she received the messengers and had sent them out another way? For if the body without the Ruach is dead, so faith without works is dead also. And we talked about that in the past. That body without that breath in it is dead. And if you ain't got that breath of Elohim, that second breath, you dead. And we're going to get to that tonight, though. Y'all willing. Come on back to Exodus 34, though. Those wounds of that friend are faithful. All you got to do is be faithful with them. We will read verse 6 again. Exodus 34. And Yahuah passed by before him and proclaimed Yahuah Elohim, merciful and gracious, long-suffering, abundant in goodness and in truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children's children and upon the children's children unto the third and fourth generation. So, again, we'll run that back. When we look at forgive, again, that word is nasa. That is to lift up, to bear up, to carry, and to take, to support or to sustain or to bear. So when you notice this is pointing to Mashiach. This point, that's why he said, if you would have believed Moses, you would have believed me. When we look at iniquity, that is a bond. That is depravity. What we know is lawlessness, mischief, consequence or punishment of iniquity. When we look at transgression, went past it. Oh, sorry about that. That word is pesha, and that is rebellion or transgression against an individual or transgression against Elohim himself, and then sin. And that's just katab, and that's just simply sin. So what are those? The difference is, if you lawless, if you commit iniquity, you just do whatever you want to do. When you in transgression, you rebelling. A good example of transgression is Saul. He didn't kill all the Amalekites. He rebelled, which is why Samuel came back around with the word of Elohim telling him that rebellion is as witchcraft. And sin is what David did. He sinned by committing adultery. He committed a sinful act. Or another example of the prophet in 1 Kings 13. That was rebellion. That was transgression. Because he told him not to drink water in that place, nor eat bread in that place, and to not go out the same way he came in. That was rebellion. Or iniquity would be like at the end of the book of Judges, when it said every man did what was right in his own eyes. They were perverse. They were doing whatever. Or like how Jeremiah described every man neighed at his neighbor's house, and no man stood up and did justice and judgment. They were perverse. They were just doing whatever they wanted to do. They were just outright corrupt. Someone that is in iniquity is someone who is corrupt. They just do whatever. That's why he say the love of many wax cold and iniquity shall abound. There'd be a lot of perversity, a lot of corruption, corrupted and reprobate minds, if you will. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship have righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion have light with darkness? And what concord have Mashiach with Belial? And what part have he that believed with an infidel? What agreement have the temple of Elohim with idols? For you are the temple of the living Elohim. As Elohim have said, I dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith Yahuah, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be an Abba unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith Yahuah Almighty. Interesting. Because he said that he is gracious and merciful. He is Kanun. He is a separated seed. Therefore, you must be a separated seed. You have to separate yourself. And it says clearly in Acts chapter 26, Mashiach said clearly that they be sanctified by the faith that is in me. That you must be born again. This makes you a separated seed. The receiving of the Ruach HaKodesh, as we already talked, it makes you a separated seed. We already talked about it. The Ruach is the destruction of the things that are behind you. Ruach HaKodesh is telling you this, the destruction of the things that are behind you. And will be in Kadosh. That's the of that particular statement. That's the destruction of the things that are behind you. You've destroyed the body of sin in order to receive the blessing of life. Leave everything that you did in Mizraim on the other side of the flood and serve Yahuah with sincerity and truth. I mean, come on. It's a very, very simple concept of what he's asking us to do. And all of those things that we just mentioned was the point of the new covenant. And let's see why. John 3 and 14 on general principle. And now we can get a better understanding of what he means when he say that, grace and truth came by Yahushua HaMashiach. Faith and separation of seed came by Yahushua. The law came by Moses. Faith didn't come from the law. A separated seed didn't come from the law. That favor and acceptance, taking us back to what we looked at with Jacob and Esau, with Jacob putting on them garments to be seen as the firstborn son to be accepted, and that made him separated. Because he was already separated from the womb. That come from Yahushua. That don't come from man. That didn't come from the law. The law was just written on 2 tables of stone. It wasn't none in that law that made them a separated seed. That separated seed had already been made manifest when he called Abraham out. And then he separated Isaac and said that in Isaac thy seed shall be called. And then when Jacob and Esau was in the womb, he chose Jacob. Again, showing you his grace with a separated seed. And then even with all of those children that this man had, and you went down to Mizraim, he showed you grace again. Because he said, I will make a difference between Yasharal and Mizraim, and a dog won't wag his tail at these people. You got to know there's a difference. They are separated seed. That don't come from no law. That don't come from no law. That comes strictly from Elohim. We have to have enough wisdom to know what comes from Elohim and what come and what don't. He separates whom he wants to separate, and he separated them from the foundation of the world. And they not going to come how you looking for them to come, and they may not look how you looking for them to look, and they may not move how you want them to move. But Yah sent men after his own heart to fulfill all his good pleasure. That's why I told you, everybody who came in the personage and face and name of Elohim, the people rejected. And that's what goes on now. You can keep it on the simplest terms. 2 of the most simplest terms. If there was apostles and prophets and preachers and teachers and ministers of the living Elohim sent forth in the earth, the majority of the people are going to reject them. And I ain't talking about worldly people. I'm talking about people who profess to be believers and servants of Elohim. Let that be known. That's who's going to reject them, because they're not going to come talking how you want them to talk. They ain't going to come looking how you want them to look. And they ain't going to come moving how you feel like they should move. And you're going to reject them because you have a romanticized idea of how you think that they should move. And the other one goes to a meme that Shayla shared, which still, Acts 2 truth be told, coincides with my first example. Y'all can send somebody to love you. They not going to look how you feel like they should look, and they not going to have what you want them to have, but they going to come with the love of Elohim, what you require, and our people will turn them down, because that's what we did to Yahushua. That's what we did with the prophets. That's what we did with Yahuah himself before he even gave us a king, when we were asking for a king and he gave us Saul. We even did it with himself, period. Him literally. Shoot, even with that golden calf, we did it. Because we looking in the face that Elohim sent this person to you. He said, I rose up early, sending the prophets, rising up early and sending them. And you rejected them because you wanted what you wanted. But they had what you needed. And they came from Yahuah. And you didn't want it. So how dumb are we? Mashiach came to die. The people say, we don't want that nigga. Give me the murderer. That's our brain. Righteous man, killer. Give me the killer. But the righteous man love you. He came to serve you. He came to teach you. He came to guide you. He came to provide for you. He came to protect you. He came to give you every bit of the manifestation of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the living Elohim, that you may grow thereby. And you say, I'll take the sinner instead. Let me get Barabbas, my nigga. That's our people in a nutshell. Straight up and down. We've always done that. We've always done that. Because you're not coming how we want you to come. I'm looking for something else. I want something else. I don't want that. And then you know what ends up happening when y'all ain't gonna give you nothing. If you don't see, this is the part that tripped me out. If Yahuah sent you somebody, in this instance Yahusha or the prophets before him, and you reject them, you think he gonna send you somebody else that's more to your liking? Nigga, you done missed that boat. Yahuah ain't in the let me just keep sending people they way till they want that one. That man don't move like that. You don't want it? Well, screw you then. Shoot. Get to somebody who do. Let that pass you on by. That's how our mind thinking. God will send me another person, one that I like. He ain't gonna send you nothing. Because when you rejected them, you rejected him. That's why he say, whosoever believe on me, believe on him that sent me. That's why he said that. You're not believing on Yahushua. You're believing on the man who sent Yahushua. That's what nigga don't realize. That's what we don't realize. And we reject and think y'all gonna send somebody else. And then the people perish without a vision because he don't send nobody else. What was I going after this? I do not remember. Nevertheless. Come on back to what we did. Finish with that, all that there right there. Oh yeah, John 3 and 14 was where I was going. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lamb. Yeah, man. That's our people, man. That's us. That is us. And remember when he said that no man have seen the Son, seen the Abba, but him who was in his bosom, who declared him, or caused you to be able to experience him. And that's what we're going to lead to when we wrapping up Exodus 33, because we at the 10 o'clock hour, and it's about time to transition into phase 2. And Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whosoever believe in him should not perish, but have eternal life. For Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. For Elohim sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. The only reason why I came here for that particular verse was because, remember, the NASA. And that was dealing with bearing the punishment, the lifting up or the exalting. And we came there for the 3 and 14. Because remember when Moses lifted up the serpent, it was after all the people had been bit. And if they looked upon it, they would have been healed. So we looking at this here because we know that Mashiach is being lifted up. And he is coming to bear the sins of the people, as we talked about last week or so, and that Hebrews 9, that we know Mashiach was offered once to bear the sins of many people. He came to bear your sins. He came to bear your iniquity. He came to bear your transgressions. This is what he is proclaiming the name of Yahuah about when they are renewing the covenant of which you broke. He is prophesying in the law of what was going to go down in Jeremiah 31, which was fulfilled in the body of Mashiach on that day of Pesach some 2,000 years ago. But none of us sit back and weigh that and consider it and understand it and perceive it and seek after it. This is why he tells you that you must bear your stake, and whosoever doesn't bear his stake is not worthy of him, because he was lifted up to bear your sins. The same way that serpent in the wilderness was lifted up to bear the sins. We know that serpent is similar of the adversary who had power over death. Mashiach became sin to defeat the adversary, to bear sin from you and to take it away. This is how the grace of Elohim has appeared unto men. He did this. This man's sacrifice was made to make you the sons and daughters of Elohim. That's why he said, come out from among them and be ye separate. You are now been sanctified. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. You've not been sanctified by the body of Yahushua HaMashiach to the salvation and deliverance of your soul. What greater Elohim is that than that? No Elohim who is called Elohim under heaven and earth has ever done anything of the marvelous and wondrous works of Yahuah, but yet we resist the beauty of Kadesh consistently because we take pleasure in unrighteousness and despise godliness. We don't take those who are God to be beautiful. And when we say beautiful, meaning the beauty of Kadesh, the beauty of righteousness, we don't esteem it. We don't desire it. We don't require it because we love ungodliness. We love Barabbas. Give me Barabbas. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 9. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of Elohim. And such were some of you. But ye are washed, but ye are sanctified, but ye are justified in the name of the Master Yahushua and by the Ruach of our Elohim. Now, do you notice how we seen how you say that you're justified by the name? And we're looking at Yahuah proclaiming his name. And we see that in his name, what is there? A separated seed, a head that shows you to water or to life. Because he just said you were washed and you were set apart by the name of your Master Yahushua HaMashiach, who's abundant in goodness and truth, to forgive sin and iniquity and transgression. All of this is a part of the new covenant. For finding fault with you, he had to make another one. See, we ain't got to the part of what I told you we're going to get to, of identifying all the transgressions that we can identify, of that he had to redeem us from under the first covenant to establish that second. Yahuah willing, that's coming. But we had to go ahead and wrap up what we've been looking at in that 33rd chapter with the renewal of this covenant. And now when we look in 34, he's beginning the process of the renewal. The covenant is being renewed and he's making a new one. And then, after that, Moses' face goes to shining. And we know that's dealing with eternal life. And when we look at it, it's the fourth of similitudes and the shadow of things to come. Of which that did not occur when Moses went and got the first covenant. His face did not shine. But yet when he renewed it, this man's face shone for the esteem that was encapsulated in it, for the beauty of Kadesh, righteousness and salvation, which is brought forth through the body of Yahushua HaMashiach unto eternal life, which was to come to extend the mercy and the grace and the goodness of Elohim towards men, that men would learn to repent and to live upright and justly until that last great day that they had to stand before the throne of the mighty Elohim. Nevertheless, back to Exodus 33. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. So now let's look at what we came here for. Why are we here today? We are here today for verse 20. Verse 20 in Exodus 33, and the stinking bastard turned the page on me. And you did it again. It says, and he said, thou cannot see my face, for there shall no man can see me and live. Questions. Lovely, lovely people. What do y'all think that could mean? No man can see his face and live. What does that mean to y'all? And as we swing to 1 John 1 and 18 in a moment, what does that mean to y'all? No man can see his face and live. That don't mean nothing to nobody. I guess that don't mean nothing to nobody. Well, let's begin the process. Let's begin the process on that. First thing we want to do, where do I want to begin? Judges 13 is where I'll begin. He said no man can see life. He said that no man can see him and live. So a man can see life, but you got to look at the key thing. You know what I'm saying? No man, which is Adam, no man can see his face and live. No man can see his face and live. Because see, you could be a man and have a ruach and see his face and still die. No man can see his face and live. What is he? That's not a bad answer though, sir, so you know. I just want you to know that. It's not a bad answer. Not a bad answer at all. Judges 13. And verse 15. And Manoah said unto the Malachim of Yahuah, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we have made ready a kid for thee. And the Malachim of Yahuah said unto Manoah, Thou detain me, I will not eat of thy bread, and if thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto Yahuah. For Manoah knew not that he was a Malachim of Yahuah. So keep that in mind. Manoah think he looking at Elohim. And Manoah said unto the Malachim of Yahuah, what is thy name? That when thy sayings come to pass, we may do thee on pause. Notice how he say he didn't know that this was a Malachim? Just for general principle. I know most of you know it. But Hebrews 13 and 1. This is why it pays to be nice to people when you come. I know people you like, boy, that could 13 and 1. People say, oh, that could be an angel. One thing you know, an angel ain't coming smoking no cigarettes and he ain't coming drinking no beer. Because some people thinking them people they be doing stuff for at the stove be angels. Ain't no angel of Yahuah posted up at no 7-Eleven smoking no Virginia Slim, sipping on no Colt 45, no King Cobra. Let brotherly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for there be some who have entertained Malachim unaware. Come back to church. Some people have entertained Malachim, didn't even know it. This man looking out for a Malachim or you, don't you know that's going to be a good report for him? He said, man, let me fix you something to eat. Lot did the same thing. He didn't know that what Malachim he was dealing with. You're not going to know that Malachim, they going to look like men. And you should know from Ezekiel chapter 40, they're going to be black men. Let's look at Ezekiel chapter 40 for somebody who may not be aware. Let that be known. Ain't going to be no funny looking creature. Ain't going to be no white man. Ain't no disrespecting no white people, but we ain't finna let you get on by with that lie, buddy. Ain't no Michael Landon coming through. Ain't no Della Reese coming through. They don't operate like that. That was blasphemy to Yahuah when they were doing that stuff. 40 and 2. We make it 40 and 1. In the 5th and 20th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year, after the city was smitten, in the self same day, the hand of Yahuah was upon me and brought me thither. And the visions of Elohim brought he me into the land of Yasharal, and set me upon a very high mountain, by which was the frame of a city on the south. And he brought me thither, and behold, there was a man, whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a line of flax in his hand, and a measuring reed, and he stood in the gate. This is Malachim he looking at. And notice he said his appearance was of brass. This ain't Yahushua. Like it tell you his skin looked like burnt brass. This is Malachim say his skin looked the same. People may not like it. Doesn't matter what color he is. It don't. It really don't. It don't matter. It only matter because it's the word of Elohim. But if you say it don't matter, baby boy, it don't matter. Young lady, it don't matter. I don't care. I'm not here to convince you. I was having a conversation the other day. Somebody said, you know, you're naturally manipulative. I say, sure is. I'm going to manipulate you to do right. Just like Paul said, knowing the terror of Yahuah, we persuade men. I ain't going to manipulate you to do nothing wrong. I ain't going to manipulate you to get you to come off to give me something. I just want you to persuade you to do right. I'm going to try to come with every piece of cajoling, persuasion that I can possibly come up with to get you to turn to your God so your soul can be saved. What do you mean? If you preach the word, your job is to persuade men to turn from their sins. But a lot of niggas just wicked and despicable and contemptible. And as I said before we began, I do not even appreciate these